If you like to hunt, then you know we're right in the middle of deer rutting season. Local wildlife officer Jim Dooley encourages all of us to drive about 5 miles an hour slower than we normally do right now because there are so many deer out and about. Now, here's Jim with much more on this month's edition of North Central Outdoors.
Hello everyone, and it's good to see you again and be back on North Central Outdoors. This month we're going to be talking about the whitetail deer breeding season. We're going to talk about the seasons that are in place and fixing to take place, start up this month. And we're also going to talk about some safety issues. But first, let's talk about the rut. Now, probably of any issue that is discussed among hunters and wildlife officials, probably the one that gets the most attention and has the most opinions is the rut. Some people say it's driven by weather. Some people say it's driven by photo periods. Some people say it's driven by the moon cycles. And interestingly enough, irregardless of the side that you choose or the side you take, you can always find evidence to prove your point. But just keep in mind that something as critical as reproduction for a species, it has to be set in something that is concrete, not changing. And the only thing that we have that is that way is the photo period. The length of day that we have, and from a physical standpoint, an earthly standpoint, on September the 21st, we have equal lengths of day and night. And after September the 21st, the days begin to shorten and the nights begin to lengthen. So we have an increased amount of nighttime. That photo period triggers a pineal gland in the brain of a white-tailed deer that in turn triggers the release of melatonin, which is some older people take it in order to sleep, but it's triggered by the length of nighttime. That in turn triggers hormones within the deer's body, and that in turn produces the rut. Now, all of that basic formula is accentuated by moon cycles, I feel. It's up for opinion. And it's also intensified or made less intensive by weather and food supplies and also age-sex ratios. So, irregardless of where you fall out, this is the time to be looking for active bucks. There'll be a lot of mature bucks actively seeking does in order to breed with, and this cycle will continue probably till the middle of December, off and on. So we got about 30 days or so around this cycle. If you follow the moon cycles, the lunar cycles, the moon that's coming up November the 14th is called the rutting moon. Some people term it the rutting moon. And that's the second full moon after the fall equinox. Some people think that 7 days before the full moon and 7 to 10 days after the full moon, that particular full moon, is when all the rutting takes place, or the peak of the rutting takes place. Interestingly enough, the female deer estrus cycle is like in a 28-day span. It spans like 28 days. If a doe is not bred, within about 28 days she'll come back in. Interestingly enough, the lunar cycle is about 29.5 days. So I guess there is some correlation, but it's up to really anybody's opinion what really drives it. There's an app that you can get that I saw online that's available to you. It's called the Quiver Hunting app. And in that app, you can download it, it's free, and you can record all these deer movements where you hunt. And I think it would be a good thing, particularly if you hunt the same piece of ground over and over, year after year. You can record deer movements, deer activities, and within your particular area, over the course of a few years, you'd be able to identify when those peak breeding, rutting activities occur, which would be of real benefit to you as a hunter when you're scheduling your weekends, your time off, or even your days that you spend in the field. So the rut's coming. 80 to 90% of the deer that we have harvested every year are harvested during this time period. and it's a wonderful time to be afield and to be out and just experience it. In addition, you know, in regard to seasons, currently in Tennessee we have a muzzleloader season that's in. It will go through the 18th. Starting the 19th, we'll start our traditional firearms season, our big gun season, and it'll run through January the 8th. Some things that you may need to know as far as requirements. During this muzzleloader season, you have to use a firearm that is only capable of being loaded from the muzzle. It has to be at least 36 caliber or greater in size. Also, if later on in the season, on the 19th, when you rifle hunt, any type of centerfire weapon is legal in Tennessee to utilize, which is good if you want to take a young hunter, if you want to take a 22-250 or even a 22 Hornet centerfire weapon and allow a young hunter to utilize it, something that may not have the same degree of recoil as a bigger centerfire weapon, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure when you're using those lighter calibers that you really have to be particular, more particular with bullet placement. You don't want to shoot and wound something. And in addition to those specific size restrictions and caliber restrictions, there are also some safety restrictions that we have to keep in mind, and we'll be talking about those in the next segment. One of the main safety considerations that all hunters must keep in mind during this time of year, regardless of whether it's muzzleloader hunting or later on this month when our big gun season, rifle season starts, is blaze orange. It's a thing that we all are required to wear so that we are able to identify our location and also tell other hunters where we are. Some people think that it's not that big a deal, that you don't have to wear it, that you don't have to wear it to your stand, that you just have to put it on when you get in your stand. Some people even think that, like if I hunt out of a ground blind, that while I'm inside the blind, I don't have to wear the requirement, which is a hat and a vest, both of which have to be visible front and back. It has to be a minimum of 500 square inches. You have to have it on even when you're inside the blind. The reason for that is if you or your child shoot a deer from inside the blind, and in your excitement you will go outside the blind without it on, you could easily get shot. Think it's somebody that you don't know about, may be close, see that movement, see you walking around without blaze orange and mistake you for a deer. You have to consider the things that might happen, and it's imperative that you wear it. Now, as far as style and that type of thing, that's up to you. There is even camouflage blaze orange that is perfectly legal. As long as the predominant color is blaze orange, you're fine. Some people unfortunately wear faded or worn out, bleached out blaze orange. You need to make sure that you get blaze orange that is proper color. The reason for it is that these colors, blaze orange, are the brightest during dim light periods, early in the morning and late in the evening. Those are also periods of time when we as hunters are most active, and it's also the period of time when deer are the most active, early in the morning and late in the evening during dim light conditions. So it's imperative for the safety that we wear our blaze orange. I encourage everybody to do that. Some people aren't legally required to wear it. If you're hunting on your own property that you own, a farmer hunting on his own property by law is not required to wear the blaze orange there. But from a safety consideration, it is always a good idea to wear your blaze orange. Some people worry about the idea of having blaze orange and deer seeing it. We've been shooting, killing deer wearing blaze orange for a long time, and they've never become accustomed to it. The movement that's associated with it is a far more important thing than the actual color itself. So minimize your movement, wear your blaze orange, and you'll be very, very successful. Also, we have to keep in mind that we have to be concerned about safety. When we use modern firearms this time of year, you may have had hunter education several years ago. You might be new to it. You may have just had your class. But please, I would really encourage everybody to remember these safety ideas, these safety things during this busy hunting season. Number one, if you're in a tree stand, a ladder stand, wear your fall restraint device. Please wear it. It could save your life. Number two, when you operate and when you use modern firearms like this is a bolt action rifle. When you operate modern firearms, please keep in mind this word, UMP, U-M-P. Just remember that word, UMP. U stands for unload. Always make sure that your weapon is always unloaded when you're not using it. M is muzzle. Always make sure your muzzle is pointed in a safe direction. Always. And P, point. Never point your gun at anything that you don't intend to shoot. If you follow those 3 basic hunter education 10 commandments, you can throw in T, which stands for trigger. Never place your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot, until you're ready to fire. You can add that one, but keep in mind those basic hunter education principles. Wear that false restraint device, and the likelihood is that you will have a wonderful, enjoyable hunting season, and hopefully you or someone you know will be able to harvest a big quality white-tailed deer. And remember this, hunting respectfully and safely is no accident.